If you've ever had an end buyer disappear the day before closing, or if you've ever had a title company refuse to release your earnest money, if you've ever had an assignee try to renegotiate after signing, then this might be the most important video in this entire series. Welcome to part 2 of my 3-part video series where I'm breaking down my fully revised 2026 Wholesale contract suite. In part 1, I walk through my A/B purchase and sale agreement, the contract between you, the wholesaler, and the seller. Today, we're going to be breaking down the assignment contract, the agreement between you and your end buyer. And this is where most wholesalers lose control. So let's fix that and keep this in mind. These contracts were rebuilt to be regulation compliant. As of this recording, wholesale regulation in one form or another now exists in over 20 states, with several more actively moving legislation forward. That means sloppy, outdated assignment agreements are no longer just risky, they can create real legal exposure. In this video, I'm gonna walk through every clause so you understand not just how to fill it out, but how to protect yourself and stay compliant in today's regulatory environment. All that and more coming up.
For a limited time, you can get a free copy of Jerry Norton's virtual wholesaling guide so you can flip houses online without leaving your home. Download it now at virtualwholesaleguide.com.
Quick disclaimer before we get started, real estate laws and wholesaling regulations vary by state and change frequently. You're responsible for ensuring compliance wherever you transact. Before using any of my contracts, consult a licensed real estate attorney in your state. These documents are provided for educational purposes only, and I assume no liability for their use. Okay, now that we got that out of the way, let's dig in and be sure to stay to the end. I'm going to show you how to get this exact contract for free. First off, remember, this agreement is used when you are assigning contractual rights, not double closing. We'll cover that in video 3. With the assignment, you are not selling real estate. You are transferring contractual and equitable interest. That distinction matters legally and regulatorily. I think that's a word. The first clause formally transfers your contractual rights and equitable interest to the assignee. Notice the language is specific. You are assigning rights under the original agreement. You are not conveying title. You are not acting as a broker. You are acting as a principal. That protects you under broker law. If that distinction isn't clear, you open the door to licensing arguments. This clause shuts that door. Next is clause 2, and this is perhaps the most critical part of the entire document, earnest money. Let me say this clearly. The number one reason wholesale deals fall apart is end buyers not performing. Earnest money is how you commit your buyer to the deal. This agreement requires that earnest money is deposited within 24 hours, that it's held by escrow, and that it's applied towards the assignment price, and most importantly, that it's non-refundable. And here's the big one, advance written escrow instructions. If the assignee defaults, meaning they fail to close, disappear, or materially breach, they authorize escrow in advance to release the earnest money to you as liquidated damages. Now that is powerful. Notice something important here. This does not override mandatory statutory cancellation rights. You cannot contract around state rescission law, but you can structure default protection correctly. This clause protects your time, your risk, and your opportunity cost. If your assignment agreement does not have strong earnest money protection, you are gambling. And one more thing, it's your responsibility to make sure the earnest money amount is significant. There's no magic number here, but it must be enough to make the buyer think twice before walking away. As a general rule, if the contract price is under $100,000, I would look at a minimum of $2,500, ideally $5,000, then increase from there based on price and complexity. Serious buyers put up serious money. Do not accept an offer, no matter how high, from a buyer unwilling to commit real, non-refundable earnest money. Okay, next is section 3, where we confirm how the buyer is funding the deal. Most assignment failures happen for one simple reason. The buyer can't close. Either hard money isn't approved or private money falls through and the buyer overestimates their timeline. Then closing day hits and they're not ready. This section forces clarity. You're not guessing whether they can close. You're documenting how they intend to close. If you have a tight timeline, say 10 to 14 days, and they need outside funding, require proof of funds before accepting their offer. Ask for a hard money approval letter, proof of funds, or lender verification. The contract protects you legally, but your screening process protects you operationally, and both matter. Clause 4 sets the closing deadline and clarifies what happens at closing. Closing must occur on or before the agreed date. At closing, title transfers directly from the original seller to the assignee. That's important because in the assignment, you are not taking title. You are transferring contractual rights. Now here's the key protection. Once closing occurs successfully, you, the assignor, have no further obligations under the original agreement. Without that language, you could still be exposed after closing. This clause makes it clear. You have a clean entry and a clean exit. Clause 5 is one of the most protective clauses in this agreement. The assignee acknowledges they conducted independent due diligence, they are not reliant on your representations, and they accept the property as is. Why is this important? Because disappointed expectations create lawsuits. If your buyer assumed the ARV was higher, the rehab was cheaper, or the rents were stronger, and they lose money, this clause reduces the risk that they come back on you. You are assigning the contract, you are not guaranteeing profit. Next is clause 6. This clause prevents the original agreement from being modified improperly and the assignee from reassigning without your consent. That protects your position by preventing your buyer from reassigning without you knowing. Okay, now we enter regulatory territory. Again, clause 7 makes it explicit that you hold equitable interests only, you do not hold legal title, you are transferring contractual rights only, and you are acting as a principal. This is broker law shielding language. You are not listing and you are not representing the seller. You are transferring your own contract. That clarity protects you in regulated states. Clause 8 addresses profit disclosure. Now, modern wholesale regulation increasingly focuses on transparency. This clause openly states you may receive a profit or a fee. No hiding it, no disguising it, no pretending otherwise. If your buyer later says, I didn't know you were making $30,000, this clause eliminates that argument. Transparency reduces litigation risk. These final two clauses, 9 and 10, lock jurisdiction to the property state and encourage independent legal counsel. This discourages future claims of misunderstanding. When someone signs acknowledging the agreement is legally binding and they have the opportunity to seek counsel, that matters. Big picture is the assignment agreement does 5 critical things. 1, it transfers contractual rights clearly. 2, it forces real earnest money quickly. 3, it protects against end buyer default. 4, it shields against broker law exposure. And 5, it reduces post-closing litigation risk. If your assignment agreement is 1 page and vague, you are exposed. In 2026, documentation matters because regulators are watching. Now, if you want the full regulation-compliant wholesale contract pack, including the AB purchase and sale agreement with the state-specific writers, the assignment agreement, and the double close BC agreement, which we'll cover in the next video, drop a comment below and say, Jerry, you're a flipping genius. Send me the regulation-compliant contract pack, and I'll send you the download link. Okay, finally, in part 3, we're going to be breaking down the BC purchase agreement used for double closings. And here's something important. Double closings don't eliminate regulation. They just shift how it applies. So watch that video now, and I'll see you on that video.